Welcome, learners. We're glad you're joining us today for grades 3 through 5 English Language Arts. I'm here with my partner, Miss Abby.
Good morning. Happy Thursday.
We're going to continue talking about our narrative writing that we've been working on all week. And remember, if you missed any of our sessions from Monday, Tuesday, or Wednesday, they're recorded on our YouTube channel, on the APS YouTube channel, so be sure you take a look at those.
Definitely.
Because there's some things you might have missed that are going to help you make sense of what we continue to do. So let's take a look at our essential question that we've been using all week. And remember, we're talking about writing. We're talking about narrative writing, and that simply means that we're writing a story.
Definitely, yeah.
So Miss Abby's been walking you through the story of her life, one incident that happened to her, and we're going to continue to improve that and change it. And so the writing that we're doing is narrative writing, and our essential question asks, how do authors use those narrative elements to write a story? And so that author could be the book that you're reading, or it could be you as the author who are writing the story.
Or even telling a story too.
Yes, absolutely.
Those elements are the parts. What are some of the parts that come to mind?
So I'm thinking plot. I'm thinking one of the most important parts is characters.
Definitely.
Right? And then our setting, the place, where the story takes place. So that's going to establish it for your reader and engage them in your writing.
Definitely. When I'm telling a story, I'll often say, and then she said, or, and then my teacher said. That's called dialogue, and we're going to talk a lot about dialogue today, what characters say to one another.
Yeah, so yeah, we are definitely going to discuss that today. But since it's Thursday, today is our word study day. So we're going to start with Miss Abby showing you some word study, and then we're going to move on to some reading. Cool book today that you're going to enjoy.
Definitely.
Right, I'm going to leave, and I'll leave it to Miss Abby.
Thank you, Mrs. Kraft. All right. Happy Thursday. It is time for word study. Just to remember, word study is learning about words and finding patterns in the words that we read. Sometimes kids can get intimidated by large words, but when we find patterns, it helps us learn how to read them, write them, say them, and use them. Words are power. So let's study some words together and learn how to find the patterns to make us successful. Today's word study is all about phonics. Phonics is a fancy word for sounds. We're going to be listening for particular sounds. Our goal today is to differentiate vowel sounds. Differentiate has that word that sounds like different. We're going to be listening for different sounds today. Today, we're going to listen for the long E sound and the short E sound. All of the words are spelled with E-A together, but they sound differently. All right, what I'd like everyone to do, go ahead, loosen up your jaw. Loosen it up, loosen it up. We are going to need to get our mouth ready to make some of these different sounds. The long E sound. Go ahead and say E. Louder, E. Look at what happens to my mouth when I say E. It's almost like someone is coming and stretching out my mouth. E. It almost looks like I'm smiling. E. 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 That is the long E sound. Go ahead and say long E. No, don't say long E, say E. E is what we're listening for. We're also listening for the short E sound. The short E sound makes a different sound. It's like the beginning of egg. Eh, 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 eh. My mouth is open. The sound feels like it kind of comes from the middle of my mouth. Eh, eh. E, eh, eh. It's almost like I'm trying to just tell someone, I need your help. Short E is like the beginning of egg. 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 Go ahead and say that with me. Egg. Long E says its name. It says E. The short E sounds like the beginning of egg. Egg. There's a large animal with a tusk, a trunk, sometimes tusks. Sorry, I was getting those two confused. That starts with the short E sound as well. Elephant. Elephant. Short E's are tricky. Short E's make that sound. Long E's say their name. They say E. I'm thinking of an animal. It's the national symbol of the United States of America. It begins with a long E sound. It's a bird. It's bald. It's the bald eagle. Exactly. The long E sound, E, and the short E sound, eh. Today, since we are 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders, I'm going to try to trick you. Well, I'm also going to try and teach you, but let's work on this together. This is our target today. E, A, right next to each other. E and A, right next to each other. Each, ready. Whoops, sorry about that. This next word, treasures, teasing, break, eat, and peach. Do you notice what all of these words have in common? They all have the letters E and A right next to each other. Look at the word each. E-A-C-H. Look at ready. R-E-A-D-Y. Treasures. T-R-E-A-S-U-R-E-S. Teasing. Oh, this isn't very nice, but it has the E-A next to it. T-E-A-S-I-N-G. Break. B-R-E-A-K. Eat. E-A-T. And peach. P-E-A-C-H. All of these words have E-A in them. However, today's lesson is about phonics. It's about sounds. We're listening for 2 sounds. And these words, even though they are spelled similarly, they sound differently. Today's goal is to differentiate vowel sounds. We need to listen for how they are spelled differently. In this first column, we have long E. Teasing. T, easing, teasing. You can see my mouth makes that long E mouth. Teasing. Go ahead and say it with me. Teasing. The next word, peach. Peach. My mouth makes that long E sound again. Near. I am near someone. Near. This looks like a very long word. Underneath. Underneath. All of those words, when I say them in a slow way, my mouth forms that long E shape. In the middle column, all of these words make the short E sound, like egg, eh, eh, eh. This first word is breath. Take a deep breath. Breath, breath. The next word, overhead. Overhead, ed. Overhead. There's that word, treasures. Treasures. Heavens. Heavens. All of these have the short E sound. And of course, because English is not the simplest language, we have a weirdo. This word has EA next to each other, but it does not make the long E sound. It doesn't make the short E sound. It makes an A sound, a long A sound. Breaking. Breaking. Readers, you're getting more advanced. When I'm reading, sometimes I make a mistake. I may see a word and think it's going to be a long E. But when I read it in a sentence, I may have to fix it. So this word, breath, I might think is breathe. But because I read a lot, I know that the word breathe ends with an E at the end. If I say overhead, that is correct. But if I change this to a long E, it sounds like overheed. This is treasures. If I change this sound to a long E, it may look like treasures. Heavens, heathens. So the sentences that we read give us context. If I just read a list of words, I'm not always sure if I'm correct. Here are two tricky examples. Look at this word. It can be pronounced correctly two different ways. Read with a long E or read with a short E. Last week, an interesting book. Last week, I read. In this context, it's a short E. Down here, this word can be pronounced two ways. With a long E, tear, or with a short E, tear. A small rolled down his cheek, tear. So make sure when you're reading, you understand that the EA can make two different sounds. All right, readers, let's go ahead. Let's do a quick sort. We have 3 categories. For your at-home work, I would love if on a blank sheet of paper you write down these 3 categories as well. The 3 categories are long E, short E, like egg, and long A. We have 3 categories Now let's listen for how to organize these words. Let's start with this word up top, beauty. 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 I think that's a long E. Nearly. Nearly. I'm making that long E mouth. Underneath. Overhead. Overhead. Heavens. Heavens. Peaches. That's a long E. The word peach, different word from peaches, long E as well. Each. Whoops. Eat. Oh, my list is getting quite long. I'm noticing that most of these words make the long E sound. All, let's see, really? That's another one. Oh, it's not letting me. Alrighty. Treasures, breath. So friends, when we're making these word sounds, they can be tricky. It's good as a reader to know that the EA together can make different sounds. That's the phonics study that we're doing today. At home, open a book, magazine, or find a sheet of paper with a lot of words on it. I want you to look specifically for words that have the letters E and A in them, right next to each other. Think about the EA sound that you hear. Think about it. On a sheet of paper, blank paper, categorize your findings. Long E, short E, or long A, like breaking. Have fun studying these words, looking for patterns, and enjoying the words around you. Most of these words that you saw today will be in our read aloud. Peaches, treasures, heavens. Listen for those words as Ms. Kraft reads aloud to us. Thank you so much, word studiers. I'll see you soon.
Welcome back, learners and readers and writers. So today I wanted to talk to you a little bit about something you can use in your writing that's going to add to it and make it even more exciting. And this is kind of a confusing thing for a lot of early writers. So I want to go over it and I want to show you an example, and then we're going to read a story, part of a story actually, that uses this element in it to make writing exciting. So let's talk about it. What I want to talk to you today about is dialogue. And that's a really long word, isn't it? Do you know what dialogue is? Can you say it into your TV? Did you say that it is people speaking? That's exactly what it is. So it's a very strange word for what we just mean as speaking or talking. So your characters in your stories that you read and you write have to say things, don't they? We talk. When we talk, we use dialogue. Let me spell that for you. And what I'd like you to do is get out your writing journals, if you don't have it with you, and turn back to your vocabulary pages, those pages where we're recording those new words that we learn on Mondays and Wednesdays. And I'd like you to write this word down because it's going to be really important in your writing, and it's kind of a strange one to spell. So let's spell it together. Do you have a pencil ready? All right. D-I-A-L-O-G-U-E. Dialogue. Funny, huh? Dialogue. If we split it in two, dia and then log. And if you write as a definition, it just means speaking or talking, to have a dialogue. All right, you're increasing your vocabulary today, and it's not even vocabulary day. So let's talk a little bit about how we use dialogue in stories. When you see dialogue in a story, you've probably seen it a lot. You're going to see it set aside with quotation marks. Do you remember what quotation marks are? They are these little things that go in front of the word and then after the end. So these little marks right here, those are called quotation marks. And when you're reading a story, you see these all the time. Sometimes our brains just know that that's speaking and we move on. But it's really important to pay attention to. So if you're reading a book right now, after our episode is over, I'd like you to take a mental image or think about that as you read your story. Who's speaking? And how are we changing speakers? So when we change speakers, we're going to start a new paragraph. Do you remember writing paragraphs? So I'm going to show you in the story that we read how that works. And you're going to be really surprised because some of the paragraphs are going to be really short. Sometimes they're only a couple of words. So a person will speak, and then another person will start, and it'll be a new paragraph. Let's take a look so you can see what I mean. We are going to read a book that you may have heard of. You may have already read it, or you may have read something by this author. So the book that we're going to read today is called James and the Giant Peach. This book is by Roald Dahl, and you may know him because I bet you've read maybe or watched the movie Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Same author. This particular writer, Mr. Dahl, he's written over 38 books. Can you imagine? That's a lot of books, isn't it? Think how many years he's been writing. So this one also has a movie with it, but I'd love for you, if you are beginning to read some chapter books. We started with picture books, right? And then we moved to some of those easier chapter books, like maybe A to Z Mysteries, or maybe The Magic Treehouse. A next step from that could be Mr. Roald Dahl's books, because they are chapter books. They're a little bit harder chapter books, but he also has some pictures in them, so you can kind of see the characters. So let's take a look today at our characters in James and the Giant Peach. We have our main character, James Henry Trotter. We have his aunts, Aunt Spiker and Aunt Sponge. And then some other characters in our books that are the animals. So this is a really cool story about friendship, but it also is a really great book to look at dialogue. So we're actually going to skip forward in the story. And if you've read it before, awesome. And if you haven't, this would be a really good time to pick it up if you feel like that's at your reading level. So let's take a look. We're going to start on chapter 6. And you can see right away, what do you see? Right here, I see a quotation mark. That means somebody's going to be speaking. All right, let's jump in. Sponge, Sponge, come here at once and look at this. At what? It's a peach, Aunt Spiker was shouting. A what? So how many people did you think were speaking in that short little page? The person who said sponge, sponge, was speaking. We changed speakers. Do you see where it says, at what? That's a new speaker. And we're not quite sure who it is, but we're going to figure it out because we're going to use our context clues. The next one says it's a peach, and we know that Aunt Spiker is saying that. And look at the following line says, a what? And that's a new speaker. So readers, look, we have 1, 2, 3, 4 paragraphs in this story already. And it's only 4 lines long so far. So you can see how you change paragraphs as you write dialogue. Here's the cool thing I love about Roald Dahl books. There are some pictures in there so you can see the characters. A peach right up there on the highest branch. Can you see it? New speaker. I think you must be mistaken, my dear Spiker. That miserable tree never has any peaches on it. There's one on it now, Sponge. You look for yourself. You're teasing me, Spiker. You're making my mouth water on purpose when there's nothing to put into it. Why, that tree's never even had a blossom on it, let alone a peach. Right up on the highest branch, you say? I can't see a thing. Very funny. Ha, ha. Good gracious me. Well, I'll be blowed. There really is a peach up there. So take a look at this paragraph from there to here. It's the same speaker. Do you see how it didn't change paragraphs? Now we jump down and you can see that they indented to start a new speaker. So now Aunt Spiker is going to talk. A nice big one too, Aunt Spiker said. A beauty, Aunt Sponge cried out. At this point, James slowly put down his chopper and turned and looked across at the 2 women who were standing underneath the peach tree. Something's about to happen, he told himself. Something peculiar is about to happen any moment. He hadn't the faintest idea what it might be, but he could feel it in his bones that something was going to happen soon. He could feel it in the air around him, in the sudden stillness that had fallen upon the garden. James tiptoed a little closer to the tree. The ants were not talking now. They were just standing there, staring at the peach. There was not a sound anywhere, not even a breath of wind, and overhead the sun blazed down upon them out of a deep blue sky. It looks ripe to me, Aunt Spiker said, breaking the silence. Then why don't we eat it, Aunt Sponge suggested, licking her thick lips. We can have half each. Hey, you, James, come over here at once and climb the tree. James came running over. I want you to pick that peach up there on the highest branch, Aunt Sponge went on. Can you see it? Yes, Auntie Sponge, I can see it. And don't you dare eat any of it yourself. Your Aunt Spiker and I are going to have it between us, right here and now. Half each. Get on with you. Up you go. James crossed the tree over to the tree trunk. Stop, Aunt Spiker cried. It's getting bigger and bigger. What is? The peach, of course. You're joking. Well, look for yourself. But my dear Spiker, that's perfectly ridiculous. That's just impossible. That's. Now wait just a minute. No, that can't be right. No, yes. Great Scott, that thing really is growing. It's nearly twice as big already, Aunt Spiker shouted. It can't be true. It is true. It must be a miracle. Watch it. I am watching it. Great heavens alive, Aunt Spiker yelled. I can actually see the thing, bulging and swelling before my very eyes. Okay, so that's a really intense chapter, isn't it? That's where the author sets the stage for the story. And to help him do that, he used a lot of dialogue. So let's go back and pick it apart just a little bit. And I wanted to talk to you first about this story that you're writing with Miss Abby. So you're writing a scar story about a time that you got injured. And of course, that story is going to be written with you as the first person writer talking about what happened. And that means the story is written in a first person narrative because you're writing some narrative writing, exactly. So if you're writing in first person and you're telling what you remember, how do you include things that other people think or want to say? You can see how Mr. Roald Dahl did it. He used dialogue. So that is a great way to put in the thoughts of others. And that's exactly how he did this. So I want you to practice it too. When you're writing with Miss Abby, she's going to walk you through her scar story, right? Remember, she was on the ATV and she crashed. But think about the other people that were around that maybe had thoughts about what happened. Maybe we have the ambulance driver that took her to the hospital. Maybe we have the doctor that helped her. Those people have thoughts, right? And that helps add a lot of interest to your story. So dialogue is critically important when you're writing and you want to show it's your story, but you want to have the thoughts of others, which is exactly what happened here. So let's go back to the beginning of our chapter, and you can see another really cool thing about Roald Dahl's writing are the chapters are pretty short. So if you set a goal for yourself at night or whenever you choose to read, if you have a special reading time, maybe you take an hour out of your day to read, and you say, I want to read 3 chapters, or I'm just going to read for an hour. You're going to make a lot of progress in a book like this because the chapters are short and you're going to feel like you've really done well. So this is a good medium level book to start with. All right, so let's take a look at this chapter 6 again. And we kind of went over that beginning of who is speaking. But look at this page. So you get the illustration, which kind of helps you see what's going on, right? We've got James over here. We've got his auntie. And we've got the gentleman here. So let's move over here. And I really want to take a hard look at all the people that are speaking. So you can see at the very beginning, there's one on it now, Sponge. You look for yourself. And then another person, and then this is a really good way to see how it's indented. Do you see how it moved over? And there's a quotation mark, and then a whole paragraph of writing. And then speaker changed, indent, and then just one line. And that's absolutely okay. So when you're doing dialogue or you're using dialogue, you get a little bit of a break from the long paragraphs that we've talked about writing. Pretty cool, huh? Doesn't have to be 3 sentences or 5 sentences. It can just be a couple of words. So you indent, and then you start with a new speaker. And as you're reading it, you kind of get that idea. All right, let's drop down now. So we've got dialogue here, a new speaker, Aunt Spiker, and then more dialogue, Aunt Sponge. But look at right here. There's no quotation. So this is some narrative from the author, from the narrator. So you can see there's nothing here, but you can go ahead and put that in so you have ideas. At this point, James slowly put down his chopper and turned and looked across at the two women who were standing underneath the peach tree. That's not dialogue, is it? I don't see any quotation marks, and it's James's thoughts. So that's okay. That's what you want to add in when you're writing. So you want to have some dialogue and then have some narrative writing that is not dialogue. Let's take just a really quick look at the very end of the chapter, because this is a good description of how it's very, very short dialogue, right? It must be a miracle. Watch it, watch it. I am watching it. Great heavens alive, Aunt Spiker yelled. I can actually see the things bulging and swelling before my very eyes. We have 1, 2, 3, 4 speakers. Okay, readers, that's a lot of information about dialogue and how you can use it in your writing. So I don't want you to start with too much, maybe 1 or 2 people speaking in your writing, because otherwise it just gets too much. So just pick 1 or 2 people to write into your writing when you're talking about your scar story. Remember, dialogue, you have to use quotation marks. Those 2 little things that go at the beginning of the sentence and at the very end of the sentence. So if you're ending it with a period, you're going to put your quotation mark after that punctuation. So it'd be period, quotation, maybe exclamation, quotation. Our quotation marks look like this, right? 2 little marks, or it could be a whole sentence. So remember, your quotation marks go at the beginning of your sentence and at the end of your sentence. So happy writing, readers. I'm going to sign off for today, and Miss Abby's going to come back and work with you on your narrative writing.
Hi, writers. Today is Thursday, and I wanted to get to the point where we can wrap up our scar story. We've been writing it for 4 days. We started by brainstorming. Then we started organizing our ideas. Yesterday, Wednesday, we started drafting. We started turning our scenes into writing. And today, I'm going to fast forward and show you how to try to end your narrative. When I write stories, they kind of become like friends to me. It's hard to say, I'm done. It's hard for me. I am a teacher, and I've had students say, I'm done. Like they never want to see it again. I have felt that way before too. But with scar stories, because they are personal narratives, because they're personal stories, sometimes it's hard for me to say goodbye. Today I'm going to show you a few ways to revise your writing to make it even better so that we can get to a point when we feel satisfied with our writing. I may never say that writing is done, but I want to get to a point where I feel satisfied. I will show you how I get there today. One thing that Miss Mary talked about, or Miss Craft, I'm sorry, she was talking about dialogue. In a personal narrative, usually there are characters that talk to one another. In my story, I want to add some dialogue to my story. I also want to see if I can elevate my vocabulary that I use. This week, we have already learned 4 different high-level vocabulary words. I'm trying to think already how I can insert these words into my writing. Expel. Expel means to get rid of. Expel. I'm thinking. scoff. How can I add scoff? Kind of means to make fun of in my writing. Mortify. Ooh, I'm so embarrassed. Maybe I can add mortify to my writing. Presume when you expect something. Think about areas in your writing that you might be able to add. Presume, mortify, scoff, or expel. Good writers try to use good vocabulary. Sometimes simple words are the best words to use, and sometimes we can elevate our writing with some vocabulary words. As I'm going over my draft today, I'm going to look for ways that I can insert one of these words or maybe more. So now, I'd like to show you where my writing is today. I have my writer's notebook. On Monday, we made our scar man. I decided to write about the story when I broke my arm. After I made this, this looks like a mess. This is how my imagination works sometimes. I made scenes to organize the events of my story. I made 6 scenes. Scene 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. These 6 scenes follow the plot diagram. A plot diagram is like a mountain. It starts off pretty basic, then it starts rising till you are at your climax. That is the point of no return. And then the falling action, and you want to end with a resolution. The resolution should not be very exciting. The resolution should show what the character learned. So my scenes look like a comic book, but they have the different elements of plot. This is how authors, right behind me, this is how authors use narrative elements to write a story. I have my background, my rising action, more rising. I have my climax, the point of no return. Then I have my falling action, and finally I have my resolution. Inside each of these scenes, you will see characters, setting, and over here is some dialogue. Today I want to see if I can add more dialogue. Now, you might notice or remember from yesterday, scene number 1 is going to be my paragraph 1. This symbol right here is how you show paragraph. Scene number 2 is going to be paragraph 2. I'm just adding more and more to this brainstorming page. Paragraph 3, paragraph 4, paragraph 5, and paragraph 6. If you think I need more scenes, that just means you have more paragraphs, and that's okay. Also, when we add dialogue, those are some of our paragraph rules as well, but we won't get stuck on that. What I'd like to show you is how scene 1, turns into paragraph 1. Right here, where I've indented, this is paragraph 1. Paragraph 2 starts with my transition from yesterday. The next morning, that's paragraph 2. Paragraph 2 matches scene 2. So paragraph 3 should talk about how my brother and I are getting closer and closer to the top of the sand dune. I'm getting more and more nervous. And paragraph 3 says 10 minutes into our ride, Jesse decided to take us up a big sand dune. As we rode higher and higher, I began to feel nervous. My paragraph matches my planning scenes. This is paragraph 3. This is still paragraph 3 because I did not indent. Paragraph 4 begins here, and if you notice, it starts with suddenly. That's usually an indicator that something bad is about to happen or something exciting is about to happen. It's an indicator that you're at the top of your plot. It's the climax. It's the point of no return. This paragraph is when I break my wrist. As I turn the page, I see a new paragraph is starting here with moments later. That is my paragraph 5. And I wrote paragraph 6. That is my final resolution. Hey, writers, it looks like I'm done. But here's a tip. Don't fall in love with the first thing you write. Instead, be open to adding something more sophisticated. We want to add sophisticated or fancy language. We also want to add some more sophisticated techniques. We want to elevate our writing. If we write exactly as we've always written, we're not learning anything. So I'm going to show you how to add more. My resolution has a quick ending to it that I think all students understand. I think. It's called an echo. Echo, echo, echo. Echoes are when words at the beginning of your writing echo in the end of your writing. I did not write the 2 words "the end." I didn't. My echo shows that I'm done. So real quick, here is my conclusion, my resolution. 20 years have passed since that awful day in the desert. That day, I broke my wrist. But today, there is no scar and no pain. What I do have from that day is a reminder to be careful. I still love to adventure, but I will always remember the lessons I learned on that spring break day in 1993. Just real quick, let's go to the beginning and look for words that we hear echo, echo, echo. Find words in my first paragraph that match words in my last paragraph. Way back in 1993, my family headed to Akatia Wells for a desert vacation. It was spring break, and we were excited for a week of dirt bikes, camping, and fun. The 5 of us, my mom, dad, and my 2 brothers, Jesse and Jacob, all happily arrived at our campsite. Do you hear anything repeating, echoing? Here's my first paragraph. Here's my last paragraph. I already notice that 1993 has been echoed, echo, 1993, 1993. I repeated the year. Do you see something else that was repeated? Spring break. Spring break. Exactly. I'm taking words from my first paragraph and I'm putting them at my resolution. It's a way of tying up a package. It's a way of letting your readers know I'm done without writing the words "the end." Oh, my students know. I don't love the words "the end." I like when you can echo the end. But writers, today's lesson is really about dialogue. So even though it seems like I'm done with my writing, I'm going to revise. I'm going to add dialogue. If you look at my planning document, there's a small conversation going on between me and my brother. I want to open that up. Paragraph 2 does not have any dialogue in it. I just told you what was happening. I don't see any quotation marks. Paragraph 2 could be better. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to lift a line. The next morning, my brother Jesse woke up first. He was outside. He had his helmet on and his bike was on. That sounds a little boring. His bike was running. How about that? I quickly got up, dressed, and grabbed my helmet. The RV door slammed behind me as I ran outside. I jumped on the ATV next to Jesse and motored mine up too. This is a great opportunity for some dialogue. What did I say to him? What did he say to me? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just draw an arrow. This is my way of reminding myself where this is going to go. Motored mine up too. I'm going to start on a new page. And this is about dialogue. Motored mine up too. I'm going to grab that and bring it over here. Motored mine up too. Now, like James and the Giant Peach, I want to add some dialogue. But it can be tricky. When I zoom in, I'm just turning to any page that I see these quotation marks. "You can stop right there," the earthworm said sharply. "That's quite enough." I'm going to copy change that. Copy is when you plagiarize or you take words exactly from the text. Copy change is when you learn from writers. I'm going to take these words and I'm going to change them to fit my story. "You can stop right there," the earthworm said sharply. So I'm going to put a quotation mark. What do you think you're doing? Right here it says, "The earthworm said sharply." My brother's not an earthworm, so I'll say, "My brother said sharply." And then I'll keep going. "You're not allowed to ride without Dad." Right here, I just added what my brother said. I'm going to use books to help me learn how do you use something as sophisticated as dialogue. Then I'm going to add this back to paragraph 2 where it belongs. Writers, I hope you're finding books with great dialogue and you're learning how to use great words, great dialogue in your stories too. I hope you share your SCAR story with us. We would love to see it. I love reading student writing. Thank you so much for learning at home today with APS. We really appreciated it. Have a great weekend.